We can't even begin to imagine what it means that the God of the universe became human. The Incarnation is a mind-boggling concept. And we have to recognize that it means that Jesus is God being vulnerable, God being humble, coming to earth as a human being, entering into human existence.
Since the children have flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity, so that by his death he might break the power of him who holds the power of death, that is the devil, and free those who all their lives were held in slavery by their fear of death. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted.
So when Jesus willingly enters our world and all the pain and suffering of our world, it reminds me of a film that I've seen recently. It's called The Boy with the Striped Pyjamas, and it's the story of a little boy, a little German boy that makes friends with a little Jewish boy who's in a concentration camp. But they make friends through the barbed wire, and day by day they grow closer in friendship. Then one day the German boy decides to burrow under the barbed wire and to enter the concentration camp. And there's a really powerful moment when the German boy lays aside his civilian clothes and puts on the striped pyjamas of a prisoner. And I thought, that's a wonderful picture, isn't it, of the Incarnation, of what happened. God lays aside the shimmering glory of his radiance and becomes a human being, and not just any old human being, but a Jewish man in a persecuted and invaded country.
Because Jesus, our anointed one, is God, we have a God who has suffered. And therefore he can identify with us because he has already suffered with us.
He was vulnerable and isolated and alienated in so many ways, and yet he stood firm. He understands what we go through. He understands the human experience.
For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need.
There's a constancy about God, a faithfulness about God, a mercy about God, a compassion, which are just stunning. And so however low we get, however confused, however badly we behave, we come back to a God who's constant and unchanging. And he's the God reflected in the face of Christ.
The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things by his powerful word.
And I think a lot of people's barrier to faith has to do with their image of what God is like. It's pretty easy to clean up that image of God, actually. And I'll quote a British bishop, Michael Ramsey, who in a famous quote said this. He said, "In God is no un-Christ-likeness at all." In God is no un-Christ-likeness at all. Which is a fancy bishop's way of saying this. If you want to know what God is like, look at Jesus.
Our Jesus, our anointed one, is our God who has also suffered with us.